to be swimming in the same pool. So Josh is a business owner. He owns My Life Sports. He is a father and a son. He is a white man who is trying to be better. Jeremy is a father, a son, and a husband. He is a Black man who feels his voice needs to be heard and just not dismissed. So Jeremy and Josh, thank you so much for being here.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Thank you.
So yeah, we just wanted to get into some Q&As, and if anybody has any more questions they want answered the next couple of weeks, send them into Mixed Staffing, and we can hopefully continue to do conversations like this, and have uncomfortable conversations between both communities, because it's super important for all of us. So with that said, just get into it. Some of these questions I know answers to, because this is my brother-in-law, and I'm pretty active in the community there, but we just think it's important for everybody to hear these questions and hear answers, from the white community as well. So with that said, the first question for me to you, Jer, is what's the proper way for, the white community, I guess any community, to address the Black community? Like, what do you guys want to hear?
That's a good question. I think it's a really, it's a funny thing, because it gets really uncomfortable sometimes with people, and I can spot it, right away when they're describing somebody and they're trying to avoid saying Black or African American. Like, oh, this guy in a tie came in, and like, no man, like, he was a Black guy. He was African American. I think, and to that, I think it's African American and Black, they're both interchangeable. I think that's perfectly fine. I think the biggest problem is color blindness, is when we don't address that, because I know for me, and I'm obviously not speaking for all of people of color, but for me, like, I want people to see my color. I want them to address it, whether they say Black or African American, if they say Black American, if that's, if that's what people are more comfortable with it. I just think being able to see that, because that's part of my identity. And when you pretend like it's not, that's part of the problem, and that's racist in itself.
Right.
So,
I mean, we're all European Americans anyways, African American to me, it seems a little, I guess, and again, I don't know, I hear it left and right too, but from what I've heard too, buddies of mine who said they'd rather be called Black than African American.
Yeah, I just had a guy walk by my house the other day, a Black guy, and in our conversation, I said African American, because we were talking about this social issues and everything, and he goes, no, Black. He was an old guy. He goes, no, I'm Black.
Right.
So,
Hey, at least let it be known, okay? Spread the word.
All right, so Josh, then my question for you would be, it seems like people are upset about like these historical figures and these landmarks and the flag and all that kind of stuff. What's your take on all that?
Me personally, and I think the way most people should be, is history is it's a good thing, first of all, to learn from, but put them in a museum if that's where people want them, but I don't think there's any need for them. If anybody's offended by anything, I mean, the Confederate flag to me is a joke. Nobody's still rocking a Bernie Sanders 2016 bumper sticker, so why are people still like rocking a flag from a war they lost, years ago? I don't know. And it just has so much racial connotation with it. So for me, it blows my mind that people are that ignorant and dumb with the flag. I just think more people need to be aware of that, and that know that those things are offensive to people, and to just voice their opinion when they see it. A Confederate flag out there, or statues, if people want to, if they want to change the American flag, for all I care, change it. It's just it's about uniting our country and the people, you know, in this country now and this at this time. You know, it's just that our country's so different and diverse, and that's really what's important. So yeah, the flags and the statues to me can all go. Put them in a museum, whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
So, my question to you, Jer, is what are the kinds of things white people have said to you that have made you feel uncomfortable, maybe, you know, now or in the past, and so people can be aware of it?
Well, there's a lot, and we don't have time for all of them, but just a few. Pulling the race card is one, and I think I talked about this in week 1. But when you're in a situation and the race card, I guess the quote unquote race card should be pulled, Black people, honestly, we have a slow trigger finger when it comes to that because of the ramifications that come from that. We're really kind of ostracized when we do that. No, not everything is about race, but yeah, a lot of things are in fact about race. The racial systems that have been put in place in this country, I mean, undeniably put us at a disadvantage. And a lot of times, the only way to express that is to say, hey, like, this is happening to me because of my skin color. And, you know, I know me personally, I'm just deathly afraid of doing that in situations or settings with Caucasian people because of fear of the backlash that I'm going to get because I'm pulling the race card. So that's one. Don't say you people. It's pretty much a euphemism for the N-word, and it puts us on a lower level.
Do people still say that?
Yeah.
I mean, legit people? You've heard people say
yeah,
that?
yeah.
Wow.
Yep. So it's just, you know, it kind of implies that we're not on the same level, let alone like shouldn't even be in the same room. So that's something that I would avoid. I don't even look at you like you're Black, or I don't see color. We talked about that before. Earlier, color blindness is still racism. So don't tell your Black friends that you like them or you hang out with them because you just don't see color, or you don't even think of them as Black, because we want to be seen as Black. Black is beautiful. Reverse racism. So you get a lot of, I don't know, you get a lot of people who say, well, that's reverse racism. And when they see something or they hear something or they read something on social media, let's like hash this out. Reverse racism is not a thing.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of weird myself.
Difference between racism and like prejudice, and if a Black person is being prejudiced towards a white person because of their upbringing or because of what they've been taught growing up, that's totally different than being racist. There's no systems in place to hold, you know, for to keep like white people at a disadvantage, and that's really kind of what comes down to racism. There's the system,
right?
So,
gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, those are just a few. Oh, don't. If you go on vacation and you get a good tan, don't tell a brother that you're almost as dark as he is. That's just ignorant.
I got a couple freckles. That's about the extent of my tan.
All right. So, Josh, what do you think we need to do as a country to improve our racial divide? Because there clearly is a racial divide.
Yeah, that's a good question. You know, it's tough too, because on a lower level as individuals, we can talk all day and do stuff like this, which is great. But I think when it comes down to it, it really needs to involve like our politicians and changing laws and old constitution amendments that we put in place. I mean, for the first thing, I mean, banning racial groups in this country, these alt-right groups and KKK groups, to me it just blows my mind that we still allow people like that to just organize and continue to set our country back. I mean, there's a lot of people like myself and a lot of my family and friends that are like good white people, and we're really trying to like make effort. And then these groups constantly show up every couple months and set us all back. And we're like, why do we allow these terrible people in our country? It blows my mind that they're even allowed to organize. So yeah, banning racial groups is one. I'm very pro reparations. I think that just like you said, systematic racism has been real in this country for hundreds of years, and the only way to equal the playing field is monetary. And that a lot of time it's we associate ourselves with economic groups, and monetarily improving those economic groups is just a big thing. So I mean, for me, yeah, banning racial groups would, we'd stop having these clowns pop up every couple months and just set us all back, and some sort of reparations to start making amends for past history. Okay, so your turn. Okay, so this goes to the like Black Lives Movement efforts that have been going on around the country in the last couple months and years, I guess. But my question is, so the white community can be aware, is what do you want to hear from white people as far as the Black Lives Matter movement goes? What don't you want to hear, and what can white people do maybe to help the cause, and to make sure this continues and this doesn't just fade away?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'll try to unpack a lot of that, but I know we're running up against it. So when I think it's really hurtful and disrespectful when somebody is supporting Black Lives Matter movement and somebody interjects and comes in and says, oh, well, all lives matter. We know that. You guys, we know all lives matter. That's not the point. It's super demeaning. It's dismissive. And it really just, you're deflecting, right? So people that are saying that are deflecting because they're uncomfortable talking about the real issue, which is Black lives, and Black Lives Matter now, and all lives can't matter until Black lives do. Yeah. So, for people that still don't really understand that, there's the analogy from Luke 15 in the Bible. A man has 100 sheep and one goes away, and he leaves the 99 to go find the one. Does the 99 not matter? No, of course they matter, but they're not the ones that are in danger.
Right. Yeah.
So that's just another way to look at it. So don't say all lives matter when somebody says Black Lives Matter. It's pretty condescending.
And I think as white people, don't be offended when people say Black Lives Matter. That doesn't mean you don't matter.
We're not saying Black lives are better than white lives,
right,
or Latino lives or Asian lives. We're not saying that at all.
Yeah.
It's saying Black lives matter.
Right.
And they do. They matter more now than ever. And we just kind of all need to band together and stop like being so, I don't know, just like offended by stuff. Yeah.
I think a lot of it's in delivery too. Just we don't. Everybody can't take
Yeah.
constructive criticism, and it's egos, and hopefully we can get through that. But yeah, where are we at here?
Well, I think
Yeah, you guys are.
the band's playing.
Did they do a giant hook to pull us off stage, or?
No, no, thank you guys both so much. Yeah, Jeremy, when you brought up that scripture, I feel like I get a little bit emotional every time I hear it because it's so true. And Josh, I appreciate what you have said about uniting and being open to, willing to listen. And we do have one question from the panelists that we would like to hit on for Jeremy. And it says, what determines how a biracial person can address his or her race?
We'll say that again.
Yep. What determines how a biracial person addresses his or her race?
So you address your race by the way society views you. So yes, my dad was black, my mom was white, and I'm biracial, but society sees me as black, and that's who I identify with. So I think it's as simple as that, to be honest with you. Like when people look at you, what do they see? And if you're a person of color, they see a person of color. There's no person of color ever that society is going to look at and see and say, oh, that's a Caucasian person, or they're just like me. That's just not going to happen. So if you're biracial, I mean, maybe you identify with one or the other, but for me, in my case, I identify with being black, and I'm proud of that.
No, thank you so much for being able to share that. I know I have lots of friends who are biracial, and I know that it's a topic that sometimes is hard to hit on. So I appreciate you sharing. And I just want to remind people we are going to have time to hear from Jeremy and Josh again at the end. So if you have any questions for them, feel free to put them in the comments on Facebook Live or in the Q&A. So next, we are going to introduce our next speaker, which is going to be very interesting because it's my dad. So I'm very grateful for both my parents teaching me so much. And I know a lot of what I've learned is from my dad's personal story of growth. And that is what he is going to share with you today.
That we need to work on really is just diverse groups. No matter what, it's, if the only network you see is your skin color or your sexual preference or your religious group, it's hard to sympathize with other people, so having a diverse school, like, Pat was saying with Christian High, or, your social groups, or, just the networks that you hang out with, or your work, it's just so important to diversify so you can sympathize with people that are similar like you. We might not all look alike, or go to the same church or the same sexual preference or whatever it is, but being able to sympathize with people you love, and it's just
take your time.
it's just important that we all take a step back and just look at our different groups, and and again just try to do what we can to help out the people. Sorry, I lost track, but just diversify your groups, and sympathize with other people, and change your network, and just try to change, I guess. That's it. Sorry.
I'm trying to look through some of these questions. Maybe just to piggyback kind of on what Pat said. I think he said some strong things when it came to white privilege about it not necessarily being connected to wealth or tangible things. I think it's important to think about it. Privilege as is when you think something's not a problem because it doesn't directly affect you. And I think that there's a lot of that going on right now. There's a lot of people who are in their bubbles or out of the inner city or away from the rallies and away from the crime, and they're not close to somebody who's been a victim. They don't know of any stories of anybody who's a victim. They don't ever hear stories from people like myself and everybody else on the panel these last 6 weeks. So it's easy for them to just dismiss it like, what's the big deal? And that's privilege. And I think we need to just open our minds and open our hearts. And even if it doesn't affect you, put yourself in somebody else's shoes and really just try to just be a good person and take opportunities like this to tune into things and listen to other people's stories. And, I want to do the same. So I think that's my closing words.
Cool. Very good. Thank you guys for that. Josh,
Yeah.
I think it's important for all people to hopefully eventually feel the pain or feel the emotion that you feel. We need to start getting angry and mad and sad because that's what's going to drive change. So thanks for showing that vulnerability. Brad, did you want to make any closing thoughts or calls to action? And